Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about the 2018 NFL Draft Class. Specifically, we're going to talk about Luke Falk, quarterback out of Washington State. He's one of the quarterbacks that's one of the least talked about players in this draft class. Some people say that he has zero shot at becoming anything at the next level. Some people think that he even is the next Tom Brady. In fact, if you Google Luke Falk, Tom Brady, you will have articles stating that he is the next Tom Brady. But what's the truth in here? And that's really what this video is going to go into, is we're going to get into his data coming out of college, basically a pre-draft profile based on analytics. And if you're new to the channel or new to the analytical stuff that I do, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So if you don't know what a high school production score is, if you don't know what a FBS Stat Score is, or any of the other things that I do, you can just go there to get a general sense of those particular metrics. All the basic gist of those metrics is it's looking at completion percentage and touchdown to interception ratio for both of those particular metrics to see. One, the reason why completion percentage is important is because there are correlations to success with the completion percentage, but also the more often you complete a pass, the more often good things are going to happen. If you're not completing a pass, you're not getting a first down, you're not getting a second down, you're not getting a third down. It's basically a dead play. So the more opportunities you have to push the ball down the field, the better you're going to do in terms of winning football games, which is what the completion percentage measures. And then, of course, the touchdown to interception ratio is essentially how many touchdowns you throw to interceptions, which just gives you a general idea of their decision-making ability. Typically speaking, players that have a higher touchdown to interception ratio will end up becoming high-quality players at the next level, which is based on data, which we'll get into. However, the other way to look at it is this. Based on data as well, turnover ratio is very important in terms of winning football games. And if you have a quarterback that turns the football over at a very, very high rate, you're also not going to win a lot of football games. So again, both these metrics are not only to show you guys that have a potential to become a high-quality player, but also gets into why these guys are high-quality players, because their ability to complete passes, to keep plays alive, and two, because their ability to not turn the football over, which ultimately leads to losing games as well. So with all that out of the way, though, let's get to Luke Falk's data. So first off, we're going to look at his high school production and his college production. Based on data since the 2007 NFL Draft Class, Luke Falk had a high school production score of 75.50 out of 100. And during that time span, 100% of long-term starting quarterbacks had at least a 69 or higher in terms of that score, and 84 or higher in terms of Pro Bowl quarterbacks. So based on the data within easily over a 10-year sample, about 7,000 players in that sample as well, or 7,000 performances. Luke Falk has a good sort of foundation, at least from high school, to become at least a long-term starter. Pro Bowl, though, is probably out of the cards for him. And in many ways, this is kind of a similar situation that Kirk Cousins put up. Even though Kirk Cousins did go to a couple Pro Bowls, it's just kind of illustrating the fact that this is a guy who doesn't have an amazing quarterback statistic in terms of high school production, but definitely is on the line in terms of his other sort of metrics. So again, Luke Falk, very good from a high school production standpoint. He's also very good in terms of an FBS Stat Score perspective, had a 95.02 out of 100, which was his best single season performance. The starting threshold for that is 26 out of 100, and the Pro Bowl threshold is 80 or higher. This is out of every quarterback since the 1958 NFL Draft Class, essentially meaning that every single long-term starting quarterback had at least a 26 or higher since 1958, and the majority of Pro Bowl quarterbacks had at least an 80 or higher. The quarterbacks who did not meet that threshold were Michael Vick, Brett Favre, and Drew Bledsoe. So 3 quarterbacks since the 1958 NFL Draft Class. That's very, very few. So again, it's very important that you hit that 80 or higher threshold for the majority of quarterbacks. So essentially, Luke Falk has a very good profile coming out and from a production standpoint. And then, of course, when you get to his career data, so the way the career data is formulated is you take the FBS Stat Score, you add all those scores together. So if a quarterback played 3 years, you add those 3 performances together and you divide by 3, and then you compare it to every single quarterback within that time span. and the average score for a All-Pro career player, so every single All-Pro player, and this is every single one, by the way, had an average FBS score of 87.77 or higher. That was the average. Pro Bowlers was 72.26, and average starter was 70.76 out of 100. So, as you can see, there's a clear difference between an All-Pro player and a Pro Bowl player, but not so much when it comes to a Pro Bowl player and a starter, just to give that into perspective in terms of the average score. So, sometimes you kind of blur the line. Sometimes you have to be a little bit lucky to kind of become a multiple Pro Bowl player versus just a All-Pro player, which obviously is what you want. You want a multiple All-Pro player. You want a Joe Montana. You want a Tom Brady. You want a Peyton Manning. You want that. You don't necessarily just want a meh kind of guy. But overall, Luke Falk, very, very strong in terms of his average career score. And then, of course, you get to his career FBS score, which was 89.96 out of 100. The All-Pro career threshold was 77.32 out of 100. And the Pro Bowl career threshold was 64.6, and then 17.26 was the starter threshold. So overall, again, Luke Falk has a fantastic overall production profile. And not only that, I would actually compare this profile to Nick Foles a little bit. So, pulling up Nick Foles' is data. So we're just gonna, again, pull up his career FBS score. Foles had an 89.08 out of 100, and then of course he had a 89. And then of course when you compare it to the rest of the thresholds, again, usurped all those. And all I mean by Nick Foles is that I think Luke Foles is going to go in the same draft area that Nick Foles went. So we're talking day 2, maybe 4th round sort of area. That's where I think he's projected by most draft analysts, and you can go to any draft board right now, or at least mainstream draft board, and you'll find Luke Falk either day 2 or day 3, depending on the person who makes that mock. And I'm not saying that Luke Falk doesn't have flaws. When you watch him on film, he definitely has some flaws in his game in terms of overall issues and stuff like that. However, you can't deny that this is a quarterback who, in the right system, like a Nick Foles, could be a fantastic player. Because the one thing I think that people kind of ignore about Nick Foles is that even though it was only one season in 2013, and then of course he had the Super Bowl run, he definitely was a guy that had a very, very good college career, had a very good 2013 season, and then just kind of fell off a bit. But still, I think Luke Falk has the potential to be a player like that. So essentially a backup to guy that can come in and win you a Super Bowl, theoretically, in the right system, in the right situation. So that's the one thing I'll say about Luke Falk, because I think I'm not going to say he's underrated, because, again, I definitely think there are some things on film that give you cause for concern in terms of different velocity sort of things and pocket presence at times and different stuff like that. But I do think that, again, if you're looking for a guy that has the potential to become a long-term starter in this draft class, Luke Falk definitely has that potential based on paper, and I just think it's just a matter of getting into the right scheme, getting in the right system, and I think you could see a lot of successful things from him in the future. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always reminded when another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.